Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture on Basta, a book chapter from Lippy Green's textbook English with an Accent, Language, Ideology and Discrimination in the United States. I've given it a subtitle to reflect what we're actually talking about in this chapter, which is Language Operation, the Latino Experiences. The main talking points in this lecture are the consideration of how we identify the people who are generally referred to as Latinos or Latinas, and why are they called Hispanic as well, why there is an uneasy tension over the Hispanic population in the country's politics, and how that is related to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and how it transferred the a big part of the Mexican lands to the US, and how it started actually the lot of discrimination that is faced by the Latino population in the US. And the book chapter talks about the everyday life experiences, their experiences in the workplace and also in the education system, especially the experiences that are discriminatory and based on their language identities. So I will not talk about all of these issues. I've focused on 2 or 3 sections that are really useful for us in understanding the content that we are trying to learn in this final project. The first section I'm going to talk about here is a series of language-focused discriminatory practices against the Latino population that the writer reports. In this case, the first one, say, from San Jose, California, it says a 50-year-old Latino is speaking on his cell phone in Spanish was punched in the face by a 20-year-old Anglo male who shouted, "Speak English." So it is a kind of a regular happening really in the US, where a lot of people are stopped from speaking Spanish in the public life. In Pennsylvania, 2008, in hearing a criminal case on conspiracy to commit robbery, a judge offered 4 Spanish-speaking defendants a choice: learn English or go to jail for 2 years. So what is this judge actually indicating is that if you don't learn English, you are committing an offense. So not learning English is equal to going to jail. That also reinforces the idea that in the US there is only one English, and there is only one language, that is English. So we must learn that, which is not the case. The US does not have an official language policy in the federal level, and we are free to speak any languages. The next case is from a professor in college who refused to believe that a student had written an essay because she assumed that Mexicans don't write very well, and so therefore she couldn't have written this paper. So you see, the language-focused discriminatory practices are coming from people in the everyday life, outside, people from the justice systems, people from the education system as well. Another example here is from Beaufort County, North Carolina, where a county commissioner asked the Health and Social Services Department to keep counts of the number of clients with Spanish surnames. He wanted to determine how many undocumented immigrants are using city services. Now imagine that. So that commissioner is equating person with a Spanish surname with undocumented immigrants, which is not fair. Not all people having a Spanish-looking name is an undocumented immigrant. There are more cases like this. In Texas, 2009, Over at least a 3-year period, police officers wrote citations for non-English speaking driver, a law that does not exist. In every case, the person ticketed was a native speaker of Spanish. As soon as this practice came to light, the police department began an investigation of all involved officers for dereliction of duty. Fines collected from drivers were refunded and charges dropped. A representative of the League of the United Latin American Citizens drew attention to the fact that there were active police officers who believed that it was a crime not to speak English. See, it is coming from the law enforcement, and they do not know the law. In Connecticut, 2010, a study of traffic tickets issued by the East Haven Police Department over an 8-month period established that while Latinos or Latinas make up less than 6% of the population, they accounted for more than 50% of tickets issued. In addition, the study found that police officers routinely misrepresented the race of the person receiving the ticket in their reports. So, Spanish-speaking population are given more tickets than anyone else. In another case in Tennessee, 2005, a family court judge tells a mother from Mexico she must learn English and use birth control. That same judge threatens to terminate parental rights of a mother if she could not speak English at a 4th grade level when she appeared before him in 6 months. Now consider several factors here. Number one, that we cannot have children unless we learn English. How unfair is that? Number two, the judge has no idea of how people learn a different language. The judge is declaring that that person has to learn English at a 4th grade level in the next 6 months without providing any resources, without showing any way how to do it. I guess the judge himself or herself will not be able to learn, say, Spanish at a 4th grade level in 6 months' time. Another case, in Texas, 1995, a judge scolds a mother who speaks only Spanish to her 5-year-old daughter, saying, "You are abusing that child and you are relegating her to the position of housemaid. Now get this straight. You start speaking English to this child because if she doesn't do good in school, then I can remove her because it's not in her best interest to be ignorant. The child will only hear English." So the judge thinks you're neglecting your children if you don't teach them or speak to them in English. That not doing so actually putting them to the level of a housemaid. So all these practices are coming from people who are educated, from the court system, from the law enforcing agency, from the education system. So language discrimination for the Latino population is a reality that they have to face on a day-to-day basis. In the section, the most vulnerable, it's on page 268 to 69, Lippy Green talks about a Mexican woman named Cirila Baltazar Cruz. She is from Oaxaca, Mexico, but was living in Mississippi to work. She had her family in Oaxaca. She started working in Mississippi to help support her family. But one unique part of her identity is that even if she is from Mexico, she does not know Spanish. And she does not speak English either. She is from the Chatino region, and they speak a language that is specific to Chatino. Now, a lot of people believe that whoever comes from Mexico will know Spanish, which is not true. Mexico is is really a diverse country. It has many other languages as well. Now, why are we talking about this Cirilla Baltazar Cruz? Cirilla once gave birth to a child in the hospital, and the people from the Health and Human Services came to her and started asking a lot of questions to her. And they were all speaking Spanish. In fact, that human services worker was Puerto Rican in origin. Now, Cirilla did not know Spanish. She could not respond to any of the questions. She had her cousin who was expert both in Spanish and Chatino, but the health worker, the human services worker, did not allow that cousin to act as an interpreter. Now, because she could not speak Spanish, and because she could not answer all those questions, and because she could not defend herself against all the accusations that the service workers were bringing against her, they took her child away. So there was an investigation to that process, and she got her child back after 1 year. And when she got her child back, she left the country. So in this scenario, the most vulnerable people in the US, especially the people who we are calling Latino, are those who do not belong to any specific category of language really as we know it. So there are a lot of people who speak neither English nor Spanish, and even if they do, if we do not offer bilingual services for special situations like giving birth in a hospital, they are going to suffer. Just in this case, Cirilla lost her child almost, and only after a counter investigation from the Health and Human Services that she got the child back. Now, Libby Green talks about a woman, Cirilla Baltazar Cruz, whom she considered the most vulnerable. Why? Cirilla comes from Oaxaca, Mexico. Was living in Mississippi for work. She wanted to support her family back in Oaxaca. The unique point about Cirilla is that she spoke Chatino, which is a different language than Spanish, and they are not mutually intelligible. And to make matters worse, she did not speak English either. Now, once Cirilla went to the Singing River Hospital there and gave birth to a healthy daughter. Once the daughter was born, a Spanish-speaking patient advocate of Puerto Rican origin and a social services representative came to Cruz's room, Cirilla's room, and started questioning her about a lot of things, and also making a lot of accusations that she actually did not do. Cirilla could not answer any of the questions or address the allegations in any way because she did not know Spanish. And the social service representative just assumed that Cirilla Cruz would know Spanish because she was from Mexico. A curious point is that Cirilla had her cousin who could have been an interpreter between them, who spoke both Chatino and Spanish, but she was not allowed to. So what happened at the end? They made a case against Chirila Cruz, and they they took that they took that they took her child away, and actually put her also for adoption. And she could not get her child back until a later investigation that found out that she was unfairly treated, and there was actually conspiracy to take the child away to to give the child for adoption to a particular couple they knew. And she got her child back after 1 year, and she left the country forever. Now, what can I do to be just to people like her in emergency situations like that? We need bilingual services, and we cannot just assume that someone speaks a particular language. So it is this assumption that just because someone is from Mexico will speak Spanish anyway is problematic, because Mexico is a diverse country and it has many more languages other than just Spanish. In the rest of the book chapter, Lippy Green talks about a lot of things, like how Latino children face injustice in the school system, especially in the Southwest. I'm skipping that part here. I'll directly go to the hypothetical scenario that Lippy Green brings up in order to teach us the concept of language injustice. So according to this hypothetical scenario, in 2030, there will be 58% people in Arizona who will speak Spanish, and only 30% Anglo or native English speakers. Now, this is a hypothetical situation. And hypothetically speaking, they would pass a law where Spanish will be the official language of the state of Arizona. And in passing that law, they also dictate that the civil administration, the health services, and social services, the public utility enterprises, the professional corporations will institute Spanish-only policies. And so all government offices and parliamentary structures will conduct business in Spanish, and workers will not be required or encouraged to speak any language other than Spanish. Also, all consumer information must be in Spanish. Remember, all the products that you buy would have to be in Spanish. All public education at all levels is to be conducted exclusively in Spanish. English will not be used or heard in any Arizona school, with the exception of classes in which the English language is being taught. Even product labels, their instructions, manuals, warranty certificates, everything will be in Spanish, and violations will be heavily fined. Even catalogs, brochures, folders, commercial directories must be in the official language of Spanish, and all software like video games and operating systems must be available in Spanish soon after. So imagine that kind of situation where there is a Spanish-only policy in Arizona. Think about what will be the life like for the monolingual English speakers in Arizona in 2031 under these new laws. If I am a monolingual English speaker in Arizona in 2031, in this hypothetical scenario, life would be really difficult for me. I will not be able to access the education system. I will not be able to work anywhere, because everywhere it is required to speak in Spanish. I will not be able to read even product information, because everything in Spanish, and I do not know anything other than English. So this is just an imaginary situation. Think of yourself in that scenario. Life is going to be very hard. So if you do not know the mainstream language in a particular context in a country, life is definitely a challenge. So while this was a hypothetical scenario, the writer brings up a case that is not so hypothetical, but something like this in reality happened. So not so hypothetically speaking, in Quebec. You know, Quebec is a province in Canada. In 1763, the French withdrew from North America, giving the place for the British. And the British colonial policy in this part of the world was to make the world England. So they made English as the official language. Okay? So even though all the people, most of the people in Quebec at that time spoke French. So they changed this language policy, making it English only. And in so doing, French speakers were shut out of the most influential aspects of official life. And a tiered system developed in which Anglophones or English speakers, the British, constituted the governing classes, and the Francophone population were associated with the laboring working class people. So despite all these oppressions from the state level, French did not die out. And in a role reversal, in the 1970s, there were the French-speaking people who were the majority in the legislature, and they made French the official language. And they made all the rules that we have seen in that hypothetical Arizona scenario, you know, and so much so that a certain person named Bob was fined, was given a ticket because of an apostrophe on his signboard which said Bob's Plumbing. Why did he receive the ticket? According to the local language policy, every sign has to be in French, and the apostrophe in Bob's was not a requirement in, or not a thing in French language, especially to express possession. So just because he used the apostrophe, it meant he used the English expression Bob's, not the French one. So he was given that penalty and he had to pay that. So this is why language oppression is a thing. It is there in many places, no matter who is in power. And based on all these discussions, I often think that language legislation is a bad idea, because when you say that, okay, English is the official language, then nothing else is allowed in any other languages, right? So when you say Spanish is the only language, then all other non-Spanish languages would suffer. If you say French is the only language, then all other non-French languages will suffer. So that's how a language oppression works. It's not a matter of whether the people speak Spanish, French, or English. It is what they do that is an important consideration. In order to have a normal life for people speaking all sorts of languages, we have to come away from this kind of restrictive language legislation.